Hi everyone. Another rainy afternoon in the UK here, so I'm in the office again and thought I'd take advantage of it. Um, so we're coming up to a Mercury retrograde period later this month, and Mercury actually goes into shadow today. So I thought I'd take advantage of it and get some content out early. I'm feeling incredibly Virgo at the minute. You know, I've got Mercury in Virgo, Mars is in Virgo, and I'm looking around my office and I'm clearing and decluttering and looking how I can make my desk more workable and just, you know, look at any ways I can refine my work practice. And of course that extends into my house. I'm now looking around my house going, I want to tidy that, I want to clean that, I want to declutter this. I might leave my son's room until he goes back to school because he's 12 heading to a teenager, and every time I walk in his room I just go in and go, yeah, I'll come back later. And of course he's on summer holidays, so I'm trying to divide my time between him and work and all my other projects. So I thought in true Virgo fashion I'd be super organised and get in there early with some content, because I have a really busy August and a really busy autumn work-wise, with loads of work and loads of content about all those gorgeous asteroid goddesses, which you'll hear more about later, and of course dwarf planets. But I do want to sort of point out a few things about why I think this is a particularly good Mercury retrograde to take advantage of, and I'll explain that in a little bit. And just sort of get a few thoughts out there, and you know, let's get in there early, let's be organized, and let's take advantage of any celestial weather that we can. So as I said, you know, Mercury is going into shadow today at 8 degrees of Virgo, and of course that represents the point at which it will station direct later in August, and I'll talk about the dates more in a bit. And of course what's important today as well, Pluto is making an exact square to those nodes, which I'll also be discussing. So we're entering shadow today, as I've said, and then Mercury will go direct on the retrograde on the 23rd of August at 21 Virgo. It will stay retrograde until the 15th of September. So I'm just looking at my all my stuff on my computer screen here, and yep, station direct 15th of September at 8 Virgo, and then it will leave shadow at on the 30th of September at 21 Virgo. So we've got a good few weeks to, you know, reflect, review, and that's particularly the domain of Virgo, which likes to go back and plan and perfect and refine and sort of make sure everything's perfect before we crack on with any major plans. You know, and I'm sure we're familiar with all those Virgo themes, such as, you know, getting your house in order, filing, clearing out all the clutter, and you know, it's about decluttering our minds as well, because Virgo, of course, is ruled by Mercury. You know, let's review all our paperwork systems. Let's review our financial systems. You know, how can we improve our work systems? You know. And then this extends to the areas of our health, our general daily routines, our pets, you know, anything sort of Virgo or sixth house related. But it's just basically about attending to the minute details of our daily lives, which all add up and help to keeping our lives in a good working system. You know, how can we refine our lives in that sort of way. But I do want to go back very quickly to you know, Pluto squaring the nodes. You know, we had that grand cross earlier in July, a couple of weeks ago, where the Sun Pluto opposition also squared the nose, and I did talk about that in a previous video. And we're all on the brink of an evolutionary step ahead with Pluto squaring the nodes. You know, it's and because the nodes have gone cardinal into Libra and Aries, it's very much about things starting to speeding up, things that's going to start happening. You know, the nodes were in Taurus and Scorpio for around 18 months, since around December 2021. And Taurus, Scorpio are fixed, you know, so things perhaps don't move as quickly as we like. But now, because we've got the North Node in Aries, we feel like we want to be in the driving seat. We want to press the accelerator. We want to start moving ahead. We might even want to fight for that in true Aries fashion. And it's about, you know, I've had enough of this. Let's do something about it. And of course, that is collective as well. We're all fed up with political situations, financial situations, you know, climate situations, where perhaps many countries and politicians and people have been sitting on the fence a little bit, not doing anything. But we're going to be doing something now, you know, about it. And in Virgo, it's about, you know, come on, let's fine tune it. Let's plan very carefully, you know, before we sort of, you know, start rushing ahead in true Aries fashion. But of course, all these big shifts can feel a bit overwhelming, can't they? You know, we can feel a bit anxious, like we're at a crossroads. It can be a little bit worrying. And I just think, when we're in Virgo, sometimes it's about little baby steps. It's about perfecting those, you know, little steps as we go along. And that can sometimes feel easier than just a great big leap forward, which would be more what, I don't know, Sagittarius and Aries territory. And it's about, you know, let's consider a little bit more carefully before we rush in or jump in. We might have all these, you know, grand plans, you might be excited about things, but let's use Virgo and let's just think a little bit more carefully. And because it's retrograde, we're going to be heading into retrograde period. It's a time to reflect and review, think about where we've been, where we've come from, what we want to tidy up before we sort of start rushing ahead. Because, you know, if we don't tidy up what needs tidying up, and then we sort of rush full on headlong into something else, we're going to have to tidy it up at some point in the future, aren't we? Okay, we'll have to go back and correct our mistakes, or we'll have to sort of, you know, clean up any devastation that we've left in our trail. So let's just think a bit carefully now and make sure all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed. But what I think is really exciting about this period is Mercury will form a trine with Jupiter in Taurus 3 times during this shadow and retrograde period. So on the 10th of August, Mercury will trine Jupiter at 14 degrees of Virgo and Taurus. Then once again, September the 14th, at 15 degrees of Virgo and Taurus. And then for a third time, September the 25th at 14 degrees of Virgo and Taurus again. So we've got 3 Mercury Jupiter trines, okay? Hopefully you can see them on the screen above my head. These are earth trines. It's all about practicalities, you know. It's all about dealing with our finances because, of course, Jupiter's in Taurus. It's our earning potential, our resources, our, you know, financial situations. But it's just about, I think, metaphorically, you know, if we have a garden and it's full of weeds, we can't see the beauty and all the flowers if the weeds are choking them. So this is a period to clean out and weed our gardens. And metaphorically, that's about weeding out our lives as well. But also too many weeds can choke the flowers and all the, you know, the beautiful foliage or the beautiful vegetables that are growing. We need to weed our gardens. And sometimes we might even have to be brutal and get the weed killer out if necessary. But nothing can grow if it's being choked with weeds. And that's what Virgo's about, cleaning up all the clutter in our lives. And if we think about what a trine means as well, it means things are unimpeded. There's a good flow of energy, which means things are speeded up. And I was just thinking the other day about this because my computer, personal computer, which I use for work, I use for every aspect of my life pretty much. It's getting a little bit older, and I'm sort of I do know I need to change it at some point in the near future. And I just thought, you know what, maybe it's a good old weeding and a good old clear up would help it. And it's like if you give your computer a good old clear up and it starts working faster and the information flows faster. And that's what a trine's like, okay? And of course, a Mercury Jupiter trine, it's always about information as well, isn't it? So if we declutter and kill all the weeds and clear out our gardens, our minds are going to work better. They're going to work faster. Literally, if we're in an office and we clear it up, our work processes are going to be more efficient and work faster. But I do think as well with Mercury in Virgo, trine Jupiter, there is a potential for things to become magnified, because that's what Jupiter does. It makes everything grow. And Mercury in Virgo can have a tendency to overthink, to be over analytical, to worry, to sort of be anxious because it wants everything to be perfect. And it's worrying about all those teeny tiny little details. So I think there's definitely potential for us to overthink and over worry during this period. So that's something to be very mindful of as well. So perhaps, a good idea if we can, to find a way to sort of have a little personal detox, or find some ways to meditate, get into mindfulness to make sure that we're not caught up and our minds aren't churning full of just all the ridiculous minute details that, to be honest, often don't really matter. So I think we should be mindful of that during this period. But if we think about Mercury trine Jupiter on a slightly bigger scale, we can go and travel within our minds. We might already be thinking about some bigger long-term plans that we have in mind, and we've perhaps been frustrated because we've felt stuck. And now with the nodes in Aries and Libra, we're like, yeah, let's go ahead. And I think we need to sort of try and be inspired from within perhaps, and think, do you know what? I think we can manifest these plans, because this is an earth trine, which is very much about manifestation into reality. So how can we now manifest these plans, make them bear fruit? Let's bring them into reality, make them happen. But because we're going to be in a retrograde period soon, let's just maybe make sure that our plans are workable, that they're sustainable, which is a very sort of Taurus, earthy energy. And let's just make sure there's sort of no gaps or missed out details in our plans. But I think as well, Mercury Jupiter as well, it can be quite about propaganda and media. So I think we have to be very careful about what we're believing in the media at the minute. And because this is an earth trine, we need proof. We need something tangible, don't we? Okay. So I think we need to maybe seek our own truth from within, and just make sure that what we're hearing and what we're believing and what we're following is real, without a doubt. And then finally, on the 6th of September, while we're still in that retrograde period, Mercury will form an exact conjunction with the Sun at 13 Virgo 36. And that will still be picking up that Mercury Jupiter trine from the September the 4th. Okay, so really, really, really positive, perfect for you know, exploring new territory, looking at travel opportunities, exploring education opportunities, or perhaps because, you know, it will be a retrograde trine, perhaps you may get results or news that you've been waiting for a long time. So pencil in the 6th of September for any news you've been waiting for. With it being Jupiter as well, you know, check over any legal documentation or legal discussions. Make sure everything's clear, that you've read through all the blueprints, the fine details. And think about as well what is perhaps no longer sustainable in your belief systems, in your financial systems, in your working systems. You know, everything must be sustainable if we're going to move forward and keep growing and evolving. So this is very much a period of refinement, okay? And all those incredible plans that you have, you know, before you rush ahead, make sure you check over all the details, make sure you sort of, they're exactly what you want them to be. But also because, you know, I mentioned the possibility that when Mercury's in Virgo, we can get a little bit anxious and sort of worried or afraid about going ahead in case it's not perfect, in case it's not going to work. You know, it doesn't matter if everything's not quite perfect, you know, things will bear fruit anyway. You know, things might need a little bit of tweaking, but that's okay. You know, it doesn't have to be completely perfect. And one rule that I've learned to live with over many years, because I have Mercury and Mars in an exact sextile with Pluto at 29 degrees of Virgo, that has the potential to be complete OCD territory. Luckily, I don't really sort of tread too much into that. But I've had to learn to live with the 80-20 rule. And it's like, if it's 80% perfect, the other 20% doesn't really matter. Okay, the 80-20 rule, you know, that's a pretty good success rate, isn't it? 80%. That's absolutely fine. So I try and live with that all the time now if I can. Excuse me. So I think that's pretty much it. I probably will post something more closer to the time of Mercury going into you know, full retrograde. But as I said, I'm just taking an opportunity, an advantage of this time to just get a little bit ahead of myself, a little bit organised. And hopefully you will have seen all the dates on the screen above my head. You certainly will if you're watching this on Instagram, hopefully on YouTube as well. But I will post them on my website also. And if you're watching on YouTube, please feel free to like and subscribe to my channel, because there's going to be lots more coming, so watch this space. Anyway, take care everyone, and here's that the weather's going to improve in the UK soon, and wherever you are in the world, if the weather is not particularly kind, whether it's too hot, too cold, or you know, let's hope it all settles down soon. Bye.